Hello everybody and welcome back to episode 2 of the Unicorn Hunter. The demon leaned back against the stones of the well, safer from his body heat than a tree, and closed his own eyes in relief. The world was so cold, not to his skin, but to his heart. And it wasn't just the winter season having washed all the colours with the dark dullness of mud and snow. What little fire existed in the world was buried far underground, so far that being away from it tore at his mind, trying to free the madness there that would be all too happy to escape. His brethren had succumbed to that madness, and eventually so would he. Even now, he could taste the princess's pulse beneath her skin, imagine his claws marring her perfect flesh, smell the fear of the wild animals who dared accompany her. He wanted to destroy the forest around him, dead limb from dead limb, and set it ablaze so that there might be colour and warmth filling the world, if only briefly. If he did not destroy the unicorns soon, their presence would tip the balance too far. This would indeed cause another storm and rip another of his brethren from his world. He needed to kill these unicorns now, all of them. The first two for his brethren, and the last one so that he could escape this prison and end this dreaded cycle, for as long as chaos would let it be ended. He woke and realized he'd fallen asleep. The stones beneath him had melted away into the dead earth. On the far side of the well, the princess sat, quietly singing, gently combing the hair of the latest beast in a lap with a jewelled comb. Of course the princess had taken a jewelled comb to the woods. Then again, she hadn't expected to survive this long. The animal in her lap seemed to be an albino fawn or a large goat. And then the demon realised that what looked like an ice shelf just behind them was actually an icicle protruding from the animal's forehead. The first unicorn. The demon would have laughed if he hadn't been afraid of scaring the beast away. There the princess sat, shimmering like magic, her skin darker than the unicorn's by a mere blush. The curtain of her ebony hair, like a waterfall of shadow between them. From her blood-red lips came a nonsense song about flying dishes and talking pigs. A rainbow of feathers fluttered in the trees around her. A cacophony of birds had flocked just to hear her sing, and the unicorn was mesmerised. Its eyes were closed, and it suffered the princess's combing without complaint, completely still, too still. The demon crossed over to the princess in a few steps that shook the ground and caused the myriad of inhabitants in the bushes to explode into the air. The unicorn did not move. The demon reached down with a large hand, the skin of it as red as the lips, the claws as dark as her hair. She stopped singing when that hand came into view, and she stopped combing, but the unicorn's head in her lap held her trapped. The demon swept back the unicorn's silken white mane with a claw. A few stray hairs stung his skin. The perfect flesh beneath the mane was crisscrossed with layers and layers of angry red lines. The princess looked confused. The demon gently took the jewelled comb from her hand. Its aura of bile taunted him. Poison, he said. He melted the trinket into nothing with the heat of his palm and tossed the little golden ball of it into the well where it could do no more harm. Did your mother give that to you? The princess nodded silently. One big, fat, shimmering ice drop of a tear slid down her cheek and fell onto the unicorn, into the unicorn. Another tear fell, and another, deeper into the unicorn's flesh as it turned to snow in the princess's arms. When she realized what was happening, she jerked, startled. The shape of the unicorn crumbled to cold lumps of nothing in her lap. She lifted her arms slowly, reverently, and the rising sun made the rime on her forearm sparkle. Dazed, she raised a shining finger to the tongue that waited between her blood-red lips. The demon slapped her hand away. He pulled her up by the wrists and began dusting and melting away a bit of corpse ice on her that he could see. "Stupid girl," he muttered. "What would have happened?" she asked, when she found a voice. "If I had tasted the unicorn." "You would have screamed with delight because it would have been the most delicious thing you ever put in your mouth. But after unicorn, all of the food to cross your lips would taste foul. You would wander the world for the rest of your life, starving forever trying to taste something, anything, that come close to the divine perfection." "Oh," she said, and clasped her traitorous fingers behind her back. "Thank you," she added, but sounded unsure. "Come," said the demon, "we should leave this place. Other unicorns will sense that one of their brethren had died, and they will not come near it." "I'm sorry," was all she said. "Why?" "I did not let you capture the unicorn. I killed it." "No matter," said the demon. "There are others. Let's go." The princess was navigating the melted stones of the wall in her thin, inadequate slippers when something occurred to her. She brightened and reached for a tiny clutch, pulled a small object from it, and held it tightly in her hands. She squeezed her eyes shut and scrunched up her face, as if in pain. The demon held his breath, waiting for a magic spell or another bout of weeping to burst from her. Though possibly more trouble, he hoped for the former. "I wish my handsome prince, my one true love, would find me and save me and take me away from all this," she said, and tossed the coin into the air. The demon stretched out a hand and easily caught the tiny gold disc before it hit the well. His palm, still hot from the comb, melted it, too, into nothing. He tossed the thin, swirling, misshapen bit of metal into the snow at her feet. "Why did you do that?" the princess asked. "You didn't want to make that wish," the demon replied. "I didn't?" "You don't want any prince who would have you right now," he said. "Trust me." "But I always make that wish," she said. "Then I hope he takes his sweet old time finding you," he said. "Wishes are magic and wonderful," said the princess. "Are they now?" said the demon. "Skin as white as snow, hair as black as ebony, lips as red as blood. How'd that wish work out for you?" Those blood-red lips formed a thin red line, and the princess stomped away from the well. The demon chose to enjoy the silence. They marched through the forest as before, with a varying menagerie of wild animals keeping pace. The princess was distraught when the demon picked one new friend at random to be their lunch. But once cooked, her growling stomach betrayed her, and she ate with relish. She apologized to her friends when she finished. They seemed to accept it easier than she had, and so she frolicked with them as the day and miles through the endless forest stretched on and on. The meadows gave way to hills, and then mountains, and at times they had to skirt sheer cliff sides and rocky terrain. But still, on they walked. The princess had long since shredded and discarded her delicate slippers. Her ebony hair was as stringy as the limp ribbons still woven through it, and her golden dress trailed behind her in muddy rags. But she maintained her posture, and addressed her wild friends with all the pomp and circumstances of royal courtiers. They did not stop again till they came to a stream that sliced a deep crevice through the forest and rushed swift with ice-melt water from the mountains. The princess was far ahead of him, singing a harmony with a family of larks and dancing with a fluttering collection of moths and butterflies, so she did not spot the unicorn refreshing himself in the stream until she was almost upon it. The demon noticed at once. He had felt the chill presence of the unicorn emanating from the water, far stronger than any ice melt. The princess stopped her dancing, though the circus around her did not, so she still appeared to be a flurry of movement. She lifted her mud-heavy skirts and curtsied low to the unicorn across from her, on the opposite bank of the narrowest part of the stream. The unicorn noticed her, lifted his head from the water, and bent a foreleg as it bowed to her in return. Without taking her eyes from the animal, she reached into the silk purse at her belt and withdrew the most beautiful red apple the demon had ever seen. It occurred to the demon to wonder why the princess had not mentioned the apple during her passionate fit at lunchtime. It did not occur to him to wonder why she possessed such a remarkable fruit in this season where similar apples had long rotted into memory. And so he did not stop her when she offered the apple to the unicorn with both hands, and it munched heartily. For a moment they were a mirror of snow, white skin and blood-red lips, a picture of innocence and perfection. When the unicorn started to scream, it sounded very much like how the princess had screamed when she had been attacked by the huntsman. Its cry cut through the oncoming twilight and pierced the heart of any living thing within reach or earshot. Some of the smaller animals in the glen did not survive the terror of that scream. The demon thought it wise not to mention this to the princess. She was already crying, screaming in fear as the unicorn screamed in pain. She leapt into the icy stream and threw her thin young arms around the slender neck, mindless of its hooves and rolling eyes and the blood-frothed mouth. She ceased her cries and began to sing to the beast a lullaby in attempt to calm it. There was magic in her voice, whether she had willed it there or not. The demon saw several animals curl up in sleep as they heard the song. He yawned twice himself. The unicorn's thrashing slowed with its heartbeat, and it laid its head in her lap far less gracefully than the previous unicorn had. She rocked it back and forth, all the time singing it to sleep, singing it to death. She held the unicorn until long after it had turned to snow at her feet, and the wind had blown its form into tiny drifts around her. The demon approached her gently this time. He did not want to disturb her, but he also did not want her to freeze to death. So he loosened his fire essence through his iron-shod feet and into the ground, warming the earth around her. The corpse ice of the unicorn began to melt away. "I am sorry," she told him again, when the tears were gone. "I killed the unicorn." And that's episode 2 of The Unicorn Hunter. Thank you for listening. Next time we'll carry on with episode 3, see what happens, I guess. Many blessings.